It's David Hooper, bigpodcast.com, and this is day number 2 of the 30-day solo podcast challenge. My job is to help you grow a big audience for your message. And the way that we're going to do that is via podcasting. This is a series that's going to help you do a lot of things, and it goes beyond your podcast. It's going to give you more flexibility in your business, your speaking, your email. Anytime you communicate a message, you'll be using the skills that you develop here. The ability to tell a story, the clear organization, the beginning, the middle, the end. You're really going to clarify your message by going through this, and clarifying your message is the number one thing that you can do to attract and build a great audience. If you have not done this already, I want you to listen to the introduction episode of the 30-Day Solo Podcast Challenge. That explains the what and the why of everything that we are doing here. You can get this and every other episode in this series by going to bigpodcast.com/subscribe. bigpodcast.com/subscribe. You will see buttons there. There's one for iPhone, one for Android, one for an RSS feed. This episode that you're listening to, day 2, it's going to help you, but the whole series, that's going to make what we talk about today 10 times more powerful. So go to bigpodcast.com/subscribe. Previously, day 1, talked about general storytelling. I said, tell me a story. We talked about adding flair. I gave you an example of how to do this with a story about cleaning a toilet. Most people think, well, that's not exciting, but when you add flair, when you add personality, anything that you talk about can be exciting. Story is very important to your podcasting. It's important to your message. It's important to your business. Remember this, facts tell, stories sell. In this series, this is about selling you. So we're going to spend a lot of time on storytelling and your ability to tell a great story. Here's the focus of today. This is about the how you did something. And specifically, what I want to know about from you today is how did you get into podcasting? I want you to tell me the story of that. And when you tell it, I want you to add some flair. Let me give you an example. I could give you a boring version of how I got into podcasting. Well, had a meeting with a broadcasting company. I said, we should do a podcast. And they said, okay. That's basically what happened, but let me add a little flair to it. Here's how I changed that story to make it more entertaining. I had a meeting with a broadcasting company. And when I say broadcasting company, it was a radio conglomerate. Several stations, they're in a tower, one of the biggest towers in downtown Nashville. We were meeting on the 30th floor. You could look out over downtown Nashville, and it had this wraparound deck. But this wraparound deck, it was locked because a couple of years previous to this meeting, somebody had jumped off of this building. And this person, as you can imagine, from 30 stories up, they didn't make it. So they kept the doors locked. Still, a great view. And I got into this radio station because a friend of mine, I'd met her while I was working out. She worked at the radio station, and she vouched for me. I show up at the radio station. I get in the conference room. I'm enjoying the view. The bigwigs come in. The program director, the guy who's managing the station, the tech guy, the head engineer. They come in. My friend was also there. So I've got 4 people, and I'm trying to pitch this idea, and I'm dying. I thought, yeah, I'm just going to get in there, use my charisma, not plan things out. I'm going to tell them that I used to run a big music conference, and I've been in the music business for a long time, and my idea for a show was to talk about the music business. After all, we're in Nashville, Music City, USA. Why couldn't we have a show where we talk about the music industry? I thought it was a perfect match. The guy who's managing the station, and fast forward, spoiler alert, he happens to be my producer now. We worked together for the last 15 years. He said, I thought this was already organized. I thought this was a little further along. But it wasn't further along. I'd been on radio before. That'd been a few years. And I hadn't done a talk show. I had done music radio. And as I mentioned to you a couple of days ago, I had done radio promotion. So I was an okay talker, and I knew the music business, but I had never done talk radio. And I wanted these guys to give me a slot for my very own show, which I planned to syndicate. So the manager, he's thinking, I don't know. I don't know if there are enough people that are going to want this specialty show. Even though we're in Music City, USA, he's thinking big. He's like, I just don't think the audience is there. And here's what I said to him. we could put this show out on the internet. So if you're worried about the audience being small, this is a way to take your message, your station, your credibility as a tastemaker in Nashville to the world. We'll reach a whole new audience with this show, not just Nashville. We're not going to be limited by your tower. They said, the internet, huh? We'll give you a shot. We'll make a pilot. And the rest is history. It started out as a radio show, but before the radio show even hit the radio, it was also a podcast. Podcasting saved my radio show. So that's it. That's how I got into podcasting. Things like this, bigpodcast.com, did not exist at the time. Everybody was kind of on their own back then through radio. And that's why a lot of what I teach comes from that radio background. Everybody's got a similar story. The details were different, but you've got that friend. You've got that dream of a show. That's the challenge for today. Tell me how you got into podcasting. Who introduced you? Tell me about the equipment. Tell me about the people you were working with. Maybe your first guest. How did you do it? So get your pen and paper. I want you to outline your episode with 3 things: the beginning, the middle, and an end. Lead up to it. Maybe you were thinking about podcasting, you heard about it. Build this up. Then get to the meat. How did it happen? What was your first episode like? Who was the person that you interviewed? If you did an interview show, what did you think it was going to be like? Then wrap it up. Tell listeners what has happened since your first episode and where you are today. Keep that outline short. Keep it tight. Don't overthink it. My suggestion for this exercise, 3 to 5 minutes, work from bullet points, hit record, go for it, upload it. If you want to send it to me, the best way to reach out to me, bigpodcast.com. If you want to send me a message via Twitter, @DavidHooper. That's it for today. Tell me how you got into podcasting. And before you do that outline, before you hit record, I want you to do this. Go to bigpodcast.com/subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. That way you won't miss what's coming up. I've got another 28 days of these. I'm going to work you through the system. I've made it easy on you. I'm going to sneak this up on you. By the time we get to the end of this series, you are going to be amazed at how easy it is for you to come up with a series, organize your ideas, put it in bullet point form, deliver the message, beginning, middle, and an end. Do it in a cohesive, brief, and clear way. And you're going to sound great doing it. So make sure you subscribe, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. While you are there, I've got a free podcast toolkit for you. I've got episode templates, social media templates. I've got contracts for you. If you want to use music, I've got an entire toolkit. You're going to be amazed at what all's in there, and it is free. Bigpodcast.com/subscribe has it all. Thank you for listening and participating in the 30-Day Solo Podcast Challenge. I'll see you tomorrow for day number 3.